inyan which I wanted to discuss today. I just want to express my feelings, something which I want to share with you, because some of you might not be aware of the big schus, of the big merit of learning Torah here in Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh. I come from Brooklyn in America, and I certainly feel a thrill as chus to step on the Admas Kodesh of Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh and be Isaac in Torah and in Tefillah and in all aspects of Avodas Hashem. Torah in Yerushalayim, Avodah in Yerushalayim is of a much higher quality. It registers in heaven with much more dynamics than it does anywhere else. So it certainly is a schus for you and for me to be here in Yerushalayim and to talk Divrei Torah. The Rambam, I have a different Rambam here than you're accustomed to, because this piece of Rambam, which I want to learn together with you today, is censored, and in the printed Rambams that we generally have, which are photostated from the Rambam of Warsaw, Varsha, which was printed under when Poland was under the Russian government. So it's censored. They took out parts which they didn't like, which the Goyim, which the Gentiles didn't like. I have the uncensored Rambam. It's the last Perek of Rambam in Hilchos Melachim, at the very end of the Rambam. The Dinim of Mashiach. Halacha Aleph. I'm going to translate as I go to save time and not having to say the Lashon Kodesh, the Hebrew, and then translate it into English. So I'll say it right away into English. HaMelech HaMashiach the Melech HaMashiach will come, and he will return the kingdom of David to its old state, to the first kingdom, the way it was in the time of David HaMelech. He will build the Mikdash. He will gather together those who are dispersed in the Galus, and all the halachas of the Torah will come back, and they will be practiced the way they were. People will be makriv kabbanis, make shmita, yavel, like all the mitzvahs in the Torah. Whoever doesn't believe in Mashiach, or whoever doesn't wait for his coming, that means whoever isn't interested in the coming of Mashiach, and he doesn't hope, when is Mashiach coming? So not only in the Nevi'im alone is he a disbeliever, but in the Torah and in Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Rambam, you are probably aware of the fact that we have the Yud Gimel Ikrim, the 13 articles of faith, the 13 beliefs that every Jew must believe in. And one of those 13 is the belief in the Mashiach. And these are the 13 ikrim, the 13 articles of belief, which were compiled from all the Torah by the Rambam, And one of the coming of Mashiach, the way the Rambam explains it over here, the belief in Mashiach consists of two parts: believing in Mashiach and hoping that Mashiach will come. Now, this needs a little explanation. You can tell somebody that you have to believe in the Mashiach. But how can you tell somebody that he must look and hope and just wait with anxiousness, when is Mashiach coming? So he isn't so anxious, so he doesn't believe? Yes, that's true. If he isn't anxious, he doesn't believe. Because sometimes a person has no cheshek, he has a special desire to learn. So he forces himself, he learns anyway. A person sometimes hasn't got a special desire to daven, for tefillah. So he does it anyway. But there's no reason why not to have a special desire for Mashiach. Because when Mashiach will come, things will be wonderful. There will be prosperity. Everybody is going to be from the haves. No more paupers, no more have-nots. There will be peace in the world. There will be splendor in Malchus Yisrael, in the kingdom of Israel. And there will be plenty, there will be abundance. There will be happiness. It's going to be good even in the material aspects of life, not only in the as far as religion, as far as the spiritual aspects of life is concerned. So who isn't interested in the material aspects? Sometimes a person isn't high enough. He didn't reach the madrega of hoping for big things, that he should learn a lot and daven a lot and enjoy being an Oved Hashem, a servant of Hashem. All right, he isn't in that madrega yet. But who doesn't enjoy material life? Who doesn't enjoy the goodness of Olam Hazeh, of earthly life? Well, this is going to be when Mashiach will come, we're going to have all the pleasures of life available for us. And who isn't interested in that? And if somebody isn't interested, it means he doesn't believe. So you have to believe in a Mashiach and hope for Mashiach. This, as the Rambam puts it down. And whoever doesn't believe in Mashiach, the Rambam says, not only in the Nevi'im that clearly state and they clearly define what Mashiach is, not only in the Nevi'im doesn't he believe, but he's a kaifer and teiras Moshe Rabbeinu. Because we have that in the Chumash. Sharaya Teira Hayida Olav, the Teira testified, Shenema v'shav Hashem lekecha shvuscha v'chamecha. The Rabbanu Shalom is going to return all the Jews of the exile. He will have mercy on you. V'shav v'kibetzcha mikala amim. He will gather you from among all the nations. If you are going to be dispersed, b'ktzei hashemayim, at the end of heaven, misham yikabetzcha Hashem lekecha. The Rabbanu Shalom is going to take you from there, and he's going to bring you to Eretz Yisrael, as it's clearly stated in the Sedra Nitzavim. And it is also explained in Parshas Bilam, in this week's Sedra. It says over there that Bilam prophesied about the two Mashiachim. The first Mashiach is David HaMelech, that delivered the nation of Yisrael from their enemies, and the last Mashiach, who will be a descendant of David HaMelech, that's Mashiach Tzidkenu that we're waiting for, he will deliver them from the children of Esav, because we are now in the Golus of Esav. like the pasuk says, "V'yolu Moshiach b'har Tzion lishpet es hareisav." And over here in Parshas Balak, Bilam says, "Arenu v'lei ata." I see him. Bilam sees Mashiach. I see him. V'lei ata. It's not now. Who is it? So Chazal says, Zed David. Asherenu. I catch a glimpse of him. V'lei karev. It's not near, because Bilam saw it thousands of years ago. Who is that? Zeh Melech HaMashiach. Derech Keichav miYainkev. A star walks forward from Yainkev. That's David. V'kam Shevet mi Yisrael. And a leader is going to arise from Yisrael. That's Mashiach. Umachatz Pasei Mayav is going to destroy Mayav. That's David. Vayachas Mayav. V'ka'akol kol b'nei sheis. Zeh Melech HaMashiach. He's going to wage war, and he will conquer all the lands which do belong to Eretz Yisrael, and around all over the world. But like the pasuk says, "Amoshle meyam al yam," and so on and so forth. So the pasuk tells us in this Sedra that Bilam foresaw the coming of Mashiach. Now that we know that this Shabbos, the coming Shabbos, the Parshas Balak, the Shabbos which ushers in the Yemei HaMitzarim, the 3 weeks, it's the Shabbos before Shiva Asa B'Tammuz. So it's quite interesting. We know that Shabbos has in it everything that's going to happen in the week. I don't know if anybody is here now who was here several years ago when I spoke about this subject. The Shabbos contains in it all the blessings of the week. Kol birchon d'li'ayla v'tata b'yayim shviyah talyan. The Chazal tell us all the brachas above and below are all in the 7th day in Shabbos. Every blessing, every good thing that happens to a person or to our people that happens in a given week, you already have the seeds of it in the preceding Shabbos. So Shiva Asa B'Tammuz starts the 3 weeks of Aveilus, of lamentation. And however, Shiva Asa B'Tammuz, as we are going to discuss it at length soon, also has in it brachas. It has blessings in it. It has the promise of being transformed into a happy period of 3 weeks of Bias HaMashiach, which begin with Shiva Asa B'Tammuz. This blessing of Shiva Asa B'Tammuz, the potential of the 3 weeks being the happy days, as our Sfarim tell us they will be when Mashiach will come, this potential is vested in Shabbos Parshas Balak. And therefore it's fitting and proper that Dafka Parshas Balak should have the nevuah, the prophecy of the coming of Mashiach. Tichsam Seifel makes a cheshbon. He figures out through the psukim that the marriage of Boaz and Rus, from whom David HaMelech came forth, happened on Shiva Asa B'Tammuz. And we know that the Medrash says that Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. So really, these are the days of the birth of Mashiach. These 2 months, Tammuz and Av, are difficult months. During the Galus, they're difficult months. Tammuz is even worse than Av. Tammuz is complete Midas Hadin. These are the 40 days in which the Meraglim traveled, and they became days of sadness, because the Meraglim brought back a bad report about Eretz Yisrael, and their intention was every day of these 40 days to bring back a bad report. So these 40 days are days of Midas Hadin. And it starts with Chodesh Tammuz. Tammuz is a more difficult Chodesh, a Chodesh of more Midas Hadin than is the Chodesh of. Firstly, because Tammuz is Midas Hadin the entire Tammuz. Every day of Tammuz was one of the traveling of the Meraglim. In Av, it was only until Tisha B'Av. And secondly, the Sfarim do tell us that the Chodesh Tammuz is a stronger Midas Hadin. Every Chodesh has a certain combination of the Shem Havaya, of the Shem Yudke Vavke, the Shem of Hashem, and in the Chodesh Tammuz it's completely backwards, which is complete Midas Hadin. In Chodesh Av, only the first two letters are backwards, which means that it's only partly Midas Hadin. The Chodesh Tammuz is a difficult Chodesh. When Chodesh Tammuz comes, we usually learn the Sedra of korach, and korach symbolizes the Churban. Korach was a Bal Machlokes. He caused strife, Machlokes, the arguments, and he broke the unity of Klal Yisrael. He was mechulek, he made a machlokes with Moshe Rabbeinu. And because of machlokes, because of the absence of brotherhood, of peace, of ahava between the Jews, the Beis Hamikdash became charav. As the Gemara tells us in Yoma, that the second Beis Hamikdash became charav because of sinas chinam. It was destroyed because of sinas chinam, because there was hatred among the Jews. And symbolically, the event which was the direct cause of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash was the story, the episode of Kamsa Ubar Kamsa. That there was a certain person who had an enemy, and his name was Bar Kamsa, and that person, by a mistake, was invited to his party, and he didn't want to have his enemy at the party, and he had him thrown out. You probably are going to learn that on Tisha B'Av. So, because of that, Bar Kamsa went to the Roman king, and he spoke Lashon Hara, and the Roman king sent his armies, and they destroyed Yerushalayim. So the Beis Hamikdash became charav because of sinas chinam, because there was hatred and enmity among Jews, among brother Jews, and where does it say in the Torah that we're not allowed to have hatred, and we're not allowed to make machlokes, we're not allowed to have strife among Jews, that they should have arguments with each other? It's in korach. It's one of the lavin of the Torah. You're not allowed to be like korach. You should never make arguments among Klal Yisrael. Don't cause division, divisiveness among Jews. Don't cause any arguments among Jews, and forego, but don't argue. Don't make any machlokes. So korach made an argument. Korach conducted a whole campaign against Moshe Rabbeinu, and he had his punishment. The earth opened up beneath him and his Bali Machlokes, and they all were swallowed up. Vativla ha'aretz eisam, and the earth swallowed them up. And they went down to Gehinnom, to the place where all the Rishayim are punished. So the Medrash tells us that korach came up again. Korach didn't remain in the Gehenna. He came up again. He was relieved and released from the Gehenna. The pasuk says, "Moired she'oil vayoal." The Rabbeinu Shalom brought korach and his the ones who were in his party. So the Rabbeinu Shalom took them down to the she'oil, to hell, vayoal, but he brought them up again. And they have a chelik in Olam Haba. And the Ariya Kodesh says, Tzadik katama yifrach, that refers to korach. Tzadik ends with a kuf. Katama ends with a reish. Yifrach ends with a ches. That's korach, kuf, reish, ches. He really was a tzadik. Korach had a machlokes with good intentions. He argued against Moshe Rabbeinu, but with good intentions. But that's no excuse. He shouldn't have argued against Moshe Rabbeinu. Don't argue with your Rebbe, and don't make any machlokes with your Rebbe. He was a Navi. Moshe Rabbeinu was the Navi Hashem, and korach had no business, even with good intentions, to conduct any arguments with him. But his intentions were good. So therefore, he was raised from the Gehenna. Moired she'oil vayoal. He came up. That's what the Medrash tells us. The Ariya Kodesh explains us what were the intentions and what were the motivations of korach and his machlokes with Moshe Rabbeinu. We are now living in a period when there's a lot to fix up. There's a lot to be mended. There's a lot to be rectified in this world. There's a lot to be misukan. A lot has to be made whole again, which is spoiled, which is broken. A lot has to be repaired. There was the first one who spoiled our atmosphere, the atmosphere of the Rabbeinu Shalom's creation, who contaminated it, who polluted it, was Adam Arishain, through his aviram. And that spoiled the original intention of what the Bria, of what the creation was supposed to be. And the world became contaminated with aviras and with that which is the result of aviras, grief and tragedies and punishments. And every tzaddik who does a mitzvah repairs what has been spoiled by Adam Arishain. Every rasha who does an avera further spoils and contaminates and destroys this world of ours. This world of ours needs a complete overhaul. Now, whatever you find in Gashmias, whatever you find in the material aspects of the world, they mirror and reflect what the spiritual condition of the world is. And if we see that now, never as before, this world is contaminated, polluted, and the scientists are wondering when this world would come to an end because it's becoming deforested and the ozone layer above is becoming torn, and who knows what's going to happen to our entire world. So when they complain about the physical destruction of this world, actually we know that reflects a spiritual destruction of the world. Whatever you have in the physical aspect, you have in the spiritual aspect. So this world needs a lot of repairing, a lot of tikkun, repairing. Everybody who does an aviram spoils something within himself and within the world. Like we see by the generation of Noach, the Daya HaMabul, the generation of the Mabul. If they sinned, they caused that even all the animals shall sin, like Rashi explains in the beginning of Noach. So, every Aveira causes something to happen which is not the original intention of our Creator, of the Rabbeinu Shalom. We have the Kayanim and the Leviim. The greatest Jew who lived was, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu, the of the Nevi'im, the father of all the Nevi'im, who brought us down the Torah from heaven. But Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't a Kohen. He remained a Levi. His brother Aaron became a Kohen. Why wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu the Kohen? Didn't he deserve, and wasn't he more fitting to be the Kohen than Aaron? That became because of a certain flaw, a certain mistake that Moshe Rabbeinu made. The Rabbeinu Shalom told him, 7 days the Rabbeinu Shalom beseeched him and he begged him, go to Mitzrayim and redeem the Jews. Moshe Rabbeinu refused. I'm not worthy of it. He shouldn't have refused. And the Rabbeinu Shalom told him then, Halei Aaron hachicha halevi, Aaron, your brother, the Levi, he will go with you. So the Gemara tells us that actually Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to be the Kohen and Aaron the Levi. But because of the refusal of Moshe to go to redeem the Jews when the Rabbeinu Shalom asked him, even though it came because of Moshe Rabbeinu's modesty, but still he refused the Rabbeinu Shalom, he was punished that he won't be the Kohen. And Aaron became the Kohen. And so the pasuk says, Alei Aaron achicha halevi. Aaron, your brother, he should be the Levi. But now you are going to be the Levi, and Aaron will be the Kohen. So we see that the Leviim were actually supposed to be the Kohanim, and the Kohanim were actually supposed to be the Nevi'im. But everything is going to be rectified when Mashiach will come, and this world will become the ideal world. It will become a world without any flaws, without any sins, and everything, and tshuva is going to wipe out all the wrongdoings which have been done. Then once this happens, then everything returns to its original intended state. When that's going to happen, so actually Moshe Rabbeinu will become the Kohen Gadol. He will be the Kohen, and Aaron will be the Levi. So the Ari HaKadosh explains that in the Zman HaTikun, in the wonderful world which is going to come, the world to be, when Mashiach will come, or perhaps afterwards, in the world to be, so the Leviim will be the Kohanim. And the pasuk in Yecheskel is maramis to that. The pasuk in Yecheskel refers to that. HaKohanim HaLeviim b'nei tzaddik. Yecheskel talks about the third Beis HaMikdash, and he says, HaKohanim HaLeviim. The Kohanim are going to be the Leviim, and the Leviim are going to be the Kohanim. HaKohanim, who are going to be the Kohanim? HaLeviim. The Leviim are going to be the Kohanim. Because everything will be rectified then, so everything will return to the original state as it was intended before the Aveirus, before sin changed it. So that was what Korach wanted. Korach wanted to bring immediately the world to come. the world of the future, the world of the tikkun, the olam ha-tikkun, the world of completeness, the world of perfection. That's what he wanted to bring. And through that korach argued, I want to be the Kohen Gadol. I am a Levi. Originally, the Leviim are supposed to be the Kohanim. The Leviim should be the Kohanim. And that's why korach wanted kahuna. Not because korach was in pursuit of glory, of self-aggrandizement. He wanted to become somebody big. No, that wasn't korach's intention. Korach was a tzaddik. He was above that. Tzaddik katama yifrach. Korach wanted to bring the olam ha-tikkun, the world of perfection, the state of perfection, where the Leviim will be the Kohanim. Now that's as far as korach is concerned. He had good intentions, he was punished, but what he really wanted will come to be in the olam ha-tikkun, in the future world of perfection. But where do Dasan and aviram come in? Why did Dasan and aviram come into this machlokes, into this quarrel? What did they quarrel about? They were from the Shevet Reuven. They were never supposed to be Levim to begin with. Now, Dasan and aviram did have a reason to quarrel. Even if I would say that their intentions weren't so pure, but in a certain percentage, they did mean well. Dasan and aviram were from the Shevet Reuven. The Dasan v'aviram v'yain ben Peles b'nei Reuven. They were from the Shevet of Reuven. There is a chazal, there is, our chachamim tell us that la'asad lavai, the bechayrim, the firstborn, will also do the avodah. They will also be like the kohanim, because of the same reason which I explained before. The kahuna belongs to the bechayrim, to the firstborn. And until the generation of the Midbar, who did the Avodah? Who were the worshippers and who were the ones who brought these sacrifices on the altar? The Bechayrim. And that was the argument between Yankov and Esav. From the very birth of Yankov and Esav, they were arguing over the Bechayrim. And Yankov was supposed to be the real Bechayah, but Esav positioned himself in such a way that he was born first. Moshe l'shveiferes, if you remember that Rashi. And Esav came out first. So Esav was the factual Bechayah, but the real Bechayah, who Bashemayim, who in heaven was intended to be the Bechayah, was Yankov, Yisrael. B'ni b'chayri Yisrael, the Rabbeinu Shalom announces. The b'chayah is really Yisrael, not Esav. Esav is the wrong proprietor of the b'chayra. The b'chayra does not belong to Esav, it belongs to Yankov. And this is the constant struggle between Yankov and Esav. Who is the b'chayah? And later in life, symbolically, Yankov bought off the Bechayra from Esav. But Esav then didn't agree to the sale as Bechayras, but he still wanted to be the Bechayra even after the sale, as we find by the brachas of Yitzchak, of Yankov and Esav. And the Bechayrim were supposed to do the Avodah. The first, but because of the Aveira of the Egel, the Bechayrim lost the Kahuna, that they're not the priests, and it came to the Shevet Levi. and the Kayanim. They became the ones who do the Aveda, who are the priests, and they do the Aveda at the Mizbeach in the Beis HaMikdash. But originally it was supposed to be the Bechayrim. And that's how it's going to be later on also. The Bechayrim are going to do the Aveda on the Mizbeach like the Kayanim. So therefore, that was what Dasan and aviram were quarreling about. Dasan and aviram were from Reuven. Reuven was the Bechayr of Yankov. Why didn't Reuven retain the Bechayr? He is a firstborn son, and he should have the privileges which come along with Bechayr. Like Yankov Avinu says in Parshas Vayechi, Reuven, Bechayriata, you're my Bechayr, you're my firstborn. Yes, Eis, yes, Oz, you should have kingdom and kahuna. But because you sinned, because Reuven sinned, by the story with Bilha Pelegish Aviv, he lost his Bechayra. And it came back, and he lost his Bechayra, and he lost the privileges of Bechayra. So therefore, we can understand what was the platform of Dasan and aviram. Dasan and aviram, being Bnei Reuven, the children of Reuven, joined with korach, and they said, let's make now the situation and the conditions which will prevail in the Eilam HaTikkun, in the world of perfection. Let the Leviim be the Kayanim, and also the Bechayrim should be the Kayanim, and the entire Shevet Reuven shall be Kayanim, because they're the Bechayrim. Because Reuven was really supposed to be what Levi is, they're Bechayrim. They lost it, because Yesa says V'Yesa us, because of Pachas Kamayim, because of their punishment. But originally they were supposed to be the Kayanim. And when everything will be rectified, when everything will be repaired, when the world of perfection, the Eilam HaTikkun, is going to come, then the Bechayrim will do the Aveda. They're going to be the Kayanim, along with the Leviim. So therefore, that was the platform of Reuven, of Dasan and aviram. That's what they were arguing about. There are 12 months in the year. Our Sfarim tell us, the Sefer Yetzirah says so, and the Sfarim afterwards tell us this, that the 12 Shvatim are corresponding to the 12 months. Every month is a Shevet. The first month is Nisan. Nisan is the first of the Chadashim. And the Shevet, which is corresponding to Nisan, is Yehuda. And because Nisan is the king of all the months, so kingdom belongs to Yehuda. So Malchus Beis David comes from the Shevet Yehuda. Iyar is Yisachar. Iyar is Yisachar, all right, and Sivan is Zvulun. That's how it goes. So in the order of the Shvatim, we have two orders, two systems, how to enumerate the Shvatim. We can start the way they are born, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and so on, Yehuda. And this is the Seder of the Toledos, according to the order in which they were born. We employ this Seder, we use it, on the Choshen Mishpat. In the Parshas Tetzaveh, we are told that the Kohen Gadol is supposed to wear a Choshen, a breastplate on his chest, with 12 stones, and each stone is of a different color, and each stone represents a different shevet, and you have inscribed on these stones, and also on the two avnei shoham of the shoulder of the kohen, at the Kohen Gadol, there were inscribed the names of all the Shvatim, Dasan, according to the order of their birth, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, and so on and so forth. That's one way of the order of the Shvatim. There's another Seder. There's another order. The Degalim, the way they were stationed in the Midbar and the way they traveled in the Midbar. According to the Degalim, so Yehuda comes first, and then comes Yisasra, and then comes Vulan, like you have that in the Seder of Bamidbar and Nasai and Balaisra, and that was the Seder in which they brought the Kabbanis to the Chanukas HaMizbeach in Parshas Nasai. Vayomer Yishay Nasi livna Yehuda, Nachshon ben Aminadav. The first day is Yehuda, because he's first. He's corresponding to Nisan. The second day is Nisano ben Suach. He's kind of corresponding to Yisascha, and so on and so forth. So we have these two Sedarim. These two Sedarim are both true and applicable where they belong. In the Olam HaTikun, in the world of perfection, so Reuven comes first. Then all sin will be forgiven, and Reuven will get back his Bechayra. He will be reinstated as Bechayra, so Reuven comes first. And this appears on the Chayshin, on the breastplate of the Kohen. But by the Degalim and by the Chanukas and the Siyim, Yehuda comes first, because Reuven lost his Bechayra. The fourth Shevet in the Degalim, in their traveling in the Midbar, and the fourth carbon on the fourth day of Nisan was the Shevet Reuven. Reuven is fourth if we start with Nisan, and Reuven is first if we start with Reuven. So in the current era, in the Olam Bilti Misukenes, in the world which is not perfect, Yehuda is first. But the way it's going to be in the Olam HaTikun, in the world of perfection, the Olam which is going to be even after the days of Mashiach, so Reuven will be first. So the four months in succession are Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, and Tammuz. Tammuz is corresponding to Reuven. Tammuz is the Chodesh of Reuven. So really, Tammuz should have been the most important month, because it's first, if Reuven is first. But if Reuven is fourth, like it's currently, so Tammuz is also the fourth. So what happened to Reuven, that happened to Tammuz. Reuven destroyed his life. Reuven sinned. He did an aviram, and he lost his bechayra. And instead of being first, he was relegated to being fourth. And that's what happened to Tammuz. Tammuz is a month of destruction. Tammuz is destroyed. Tammuz will be reinstated. Tammuz will become, the month of Tammuz and of, as the Sfarim tell us, will be the most joyous months of the year. Tammuz will be on top. From being the lowest Chodesh, the Chodesh of Midas Hadin, it will become the highest Chodesh. But right now, Tammuz, the fourth month, shares the plight of his corresponding Shevet. He shares the plight of Reuven, the fourth Shevet. What happened to Reuven happened to Tammuz. When Reuven ruined his life, he also ruined his month. He ruined Tammuz, and Tammuz is the beginning of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Shiva Asa b'Tammuz, when the walls of Yerushalayim were broken through, huvka ha'ir, that is the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, which symbolizes the destruction of Tammuz, which happened through Reuven, when Reuven destroyed his own life and his own future because of his sin. So, Dasan and aviram represent Reuven. Who are Dasan and aviram? If we let our fingers do the walking through the Chumash, we're going to find that whenever there is trouble, Dasan and aviram are involved. And aviram are the Dennis, the menace of Klal Yisrael. Wherever it says nitzim, nitzavim, whenever you have arguments against Moshe Rabbeinu, whenever you have a quarrel, whenever you have protests, whenever you have demonstrations against Moshe Rabbeinu, who were the ones that came came to look for the man on Shabbos? When Moshe Rabbeinu said there will be no man on Shabbos, Dasan and aviram. Who were the ones who left over the man for the day later? When Moshe Rabbeinu said, don't leave over the man for the day later? Dasan and aviram. Who were the ones that when Moshe and Aaron came out of Paro's palace, so they came to argue and protest against Moshe Rabbeinu, since you, Moshe, came, things have become worse for us Jews? Dasan and aviram. Whenever you have an argument against Moshe Rabbeinu, it's Dasan and aviram. They made his life bitter in the Midbar. They were troublemakers. They made machlaikas. They were the kamsa bar kamsas of the Daya HaMidbar. And that was Reuven, because machlaikas, strife, caused the destruction of Reuven, and it caused the destruction which occurred in Tammuz. It's on the surface, we don't find anything about Dasan and aviram. The Yeriya Kodesh talks about how great korach was and how pure his intentions were. But nevertheless, don't make any machlokes. But whoever says a good word about Dasan and aviram, these two troublemakers, I find a bad word on them. Next Matzei Shabbos on Sunday is going to be the Yortzeit, the Hilula of the Oyer HaChaim HaKadosh. You probably will go to the Har HaZeisim to say Tehillim at his tomb. One of the great luminaries of Yerushalayim and the entire world. He wrote the Sefer Oyer HaChaim on Chumash, and in Parshas Korach, when Korach and his fellow arguers were swallowed up, so the Oyer HaChaim HaKadosh brings the Medrash, which I mentioned before, they're going to go up again. However, he says, I believe, says the Oyer HaChaim, that this pasuk does not refer to Dasan v'aviram. Dasan and aviram are the very essence of wickedness, of mischief. They will never have any tikkun, I believe. That's what the Oyer HaChaim HaKadosh says. So the pasuk that Rabbeinu Shalom took Korach and his people down to the Gehenna, to hell, but he raised them again, they had a tikkun that does not refer to Dasan v'aviram, says the Oyer HaChaim HaKadosh. And that makes me gloomy. Dasan and aviram, whatever they are, whatever trouble they made, however wicked they were, but weren't they Jews? Didn't they have Jewish neshamas? Are they lost forever? Could a Jew ever be lost forever without having a tikkun? Even Isai Ha'ish, the founder of the Christian religion, the worst Jew, the best guy, even he will have it taken, the Ria Kodesh says, after 50,000 Yaivelis. He will have his taken. He will come to his perfection. He was a Jew. No Jew can ever get lost. The Pasuk says, Levuti yidach mimenu nidach. No Jew will ever be cast away and rejected forever. Everyone will, in due time, have his Averis wiped off, and he will come to Olam Haba. In the Gemara, which you are going to learn on Tisha B'Av, you will find that Onkelos, upon when he wanted to become a Geir, so the Gemara tells us that Onkelos spoke to all the neshamas. He interviewed the neshamas of all the Rishayim, and he spoke to Titus and to Nebuchadnezzar and to all the other Rishayim, and he asked them, what about becoming a Jew? I want to become a Jew. Should I become a Jew? Should I convert to Judaism? They said no. And you should always try to trouble them, to make trouble for them. And then he interviewed Isaiah Ish, he interviewed Yoshka. And Yoshka told him that you should become a Jew, and you should always try to do good things for the Jews. So the Maral in Netzach Yisrael says, because Yoshka is a Jew, and when Onkelos talked to him, he was already in a different world, not in Olam Hazeh anymore, and he has a shaykhis to Olam Haba. He will come to Olam Haba. So therefore he was able to say good things about the Jews. But the others who were interviewed were Goyim, and they have no shaykhis, they have no connection with Olam Haba. So even after their death, they're still as mischievous and as hateful to Jews as they were when they were alive. That's what the Maral says. Even Isai Ha'ish, even he will have it taken after 50,000 Yavels. So why shouldn't Dasan and Aviram have it taken? Why is the Orach Chaim HaKadosh so bitter against them? He says that they will never have it taken, and he finishes off talking about them, and he says, Kacha yavdu kol hayevecha Hashem. So may all your enemies be lost, Hashem. Is there no tikkun? Is there no hope for Dasan and Aviram? They're Jews. Matzasi Kaifel. I found a redemption for them. Baruch Hashem, the Rabbeinu Shalom happened to make me aware of just opening a sefer, and that sefer is a sefer. It's called, from the Ramami Pano, it's called Gilgulei Neshamais. He speaks about the neshamas, of what happens to them after life and what their tikkun would be. And he speaks about Dasan and Aviram. And he says that Dasan and Aviram did have a tikkun, and they're on the way to their tikkun. Dasan and Aviram were reincarnated, they were megulgul, into the two oxen, the two animals, which Eliyahu Navi sacrificed on the Har Carmel, because he wanted to prove that there is a God, that the Jewish God is a God. When the Jews at that time worshipped under Achav and Izebel, they worshipped the Avodah Zarah Baal, and he brought two oxen, one, and the understanding was, let's see who's the real God, the one that the fire will come down from heaven to that sacrifice, to that korban. And Eliyahu Navi brought two oxen, one went for the Avodah Zarah, and one went for the Mizbeach of Hashem, which he built up on the Har Carmel, and the fire came down to the ox on the Har Carmel, and everybody proclaimed, Hashem hu ha'aleikim, Hashem hu ha'aleikim. So these were the two oxen, Dasan and Aviram. And that was the tikkun that they had through Eliyahu Navi. And they're on the way to the tikkun. because they were used for a good purpose. And perhaps this needs a little explanation. Dasan and aviram didn't listen to the Navi, and they didn't listen to the mitzvahs of the Navi. They refused to keep the mitzvah of tzitzis. They refused to keep the mitzvah of mezuzah. You don't need mezuzah when the house is full of sfarim. You don't need tzitzis if the talus is full of tchaylas. They refused to listen to the Navi to do mitzvahs. Their tikkun was that they listened to the Navi, to Eliyahu Navi, when he told them to do an avira, l'shem shemayim. Because you're not supposed to bring any carbon except on the Beis HaMikdash. But there Eliyahu Navi, through the tzivui of Hashem, hayroach sha'ah, was makriv the carbon on the outside of the Beis HaMikdash, on the Har HaKarmel. So that was their tshuva. That was their tikkun, and they're on the way to the tikkun. So I'm not in a position. I'm far too small and too minuscule to say that the Orach Chaim HaKadosh was wrong and the Ramah Mipanu was right. They were both very great tzaddikim, and they were both Baalei Ruach HaKodesh. And perhaps we could find a way how to reconcile that both really say the same thing. But I won't go into it now because it's rather late. But I will say that according to the Ramah Mipanu, Dasan and aviram do have a tikkun, and not like the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says that Meiritz Yael Vayoal does not refer to Dasan Vaviram. According to the Ramah Mipanu, it Meiritz Yael Vayoal, that those who went down to hell, that are going to be raised and have their rectification, this does refer to Dasan Vaviram. And if anybody has your calculators on hand, I will tell you a little remez. Dasan va'aviram is begematria meiritz sheyoel vayoal. This pasuk is marames. This pasuk hints to us through the numerical value of the pasuk that, like the Ramah Mipanu says, that they will have a tikkun, and meiritz sheyoel vayoal does refer to them. And really, that Dasan Vaviram will have a tikkun makes my heart feel good. Because Dasan Vaviram represent the Chodesh Tammuz. And the tikkun of Dasan Vaviram means that Tammuz is going to have a tikkun. That Tammuz is going to be raised from its very low state right now, from its lamentation, from its grief, and Tammuz will be changed over and transformed from a month of grief to a month of joy. Like the Navi Zechariah says, Tzayim HaRaviyi, the fast of the fourth month, that means the fast of Shivos HaB'Tammuz, Yehafech LeBeis Yehuda L'Sosan U'L'Simcha. Tammuz will have its rectification in the world of perfection. So therefore, symbolically, Dasan and aviram from Reuven, which represent Tammuz, which represent the Chodesh Tammuz, they are also going to have their tikkun. And again, if you use your calculators, so the three gentlemen of the Chodesh Tammuz, which are mentioned in Reuven, which are mentioned in Chumash, Oin ben Peles, v'Dasan v'aviram b'nei Reuven, Oin Dasan v'aviram is begematria ha-Chodesh Tammuz. They represent what the Chodesh Tammuz is. So as we mentioned before from the Rambam, Mashiach finds his sources. The Mashiach is rooted in the Sedra Balak. The Sedra Balak in the Nevuah of Bilam tells us that Mashiach is going to come. There is depth in this. Do you know who Mashiach comes out from? From Balak. Who was the one who wanted to uproot Klal Yisrael? I'm going to chase him away from the land. That was Balak and Bilam. And to Balak's dismay, not only didn't he have the Jews being cursed, but they were blessed with Mashiach in the Sedra Balak. And he caused it all. And more than that, Balak, to his dismay, contains in himself the seed of Mashiach. Because Balak was the father of Eglain Melech Moav. Eglain Melech Moav was the father of Rus. Rus was the great-grandmother of David HaMelech and Mashiach. So Balak contained in himself Mashiach. And like the Gemara tells us that because of the 42 Kabbanas that you have in this week that Balak sacrificed to the Rabbeinu Shalom, in that schus he was zeicher that Rus came out of him. So Balak has in himself the seed of Mashiach. Balak, the source of mischief to Klal Yisrael, the one that wanted to curse Klal Yisrael, from him come out the greatest brachas. And we learn this in the first Shabbos of Tammuz. We learn Balak. Don't think Tammuz is such a bad Chodesh. Tammuz has in itself the seed of Mashiach. And in the second Shabbos of Tammuz, we learn Balak and the promise that of the transformation of this Chodesh Tammuz. And actually, the brachas which we get in the Sedra Balak aren't plain, simple, ordinary brachas. They're brachas of transformation, brachas which were transformed from klalis. The Rebbeinu Shalom refused to listen to Bilam, who wanted to curse you. And the Rebbeinu Shalom transformed the klala into a bracha. Do you know why? Because the Rebbeinu Shalom loves you. And this is the very uniqueness of the brachas of the Sedra Balak which we have in the Chodesh of Tammuz. Not brachas which originate as brachas, but brachas which were transformed from klalis. They were turned over, they were transformed. Because from Tammuz comes out Mashiach. And again with your calculators, Tammuz is B'gematria Melech HaMashiach. In Tammuz we have the seed of Mashiach. Because as the Navi Zechariah says, Tzayim HaRaviyi, this fast of the 4th month, Tammuz, Yehapich lebeis Yehuda lesasenu lesimcha. It'll become the glorious festivity of the coming of Mashiach. Later, when Mashiach will come. Do I have another 5 minutes? All right. When Tammuz comes, we learn the Chsedra Chukas, and that Moshe Rabbeinu vanquished, Moshe Rabbeinu fought, and he was victorious against Sichon Melech HaMairi and Oig Melech HaBashan. Who were Sichon the king of Amairi and Oig Melech HaBashan? They were the two kings on the east of the Yarden, in the east of the Jordan, and the Megala Amukais calls them the Mina'oylin Shel Eretz Yisrael, the locks of Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael was all closed up under lock and key, and Moshe Rabbeinu destroyed Sichon and Oig, and he broke open the locks. Now we can enter into Eretz Yisrael. And it's very unique that in the first month of Tammuz when the Chodesh, the month of destruction of Eretz Yisrael, the month of exile from Eretz Yisrael comes, that month we learn about breaking open the locks and entering into Eretz Yisrael. Sichain and Oig were the locks of Eretz Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu with his Milchama broke open these locks, and now we can enter Eretz Yisrael. So the pasuk, that's what the Megala Amukai says. So the pasuk says at the end of Chukas, "Vayishlach Yisrael malachim al sichen melech hamayri leimer." The Klal Yisrael sent messengers to Sichen melech hamayri. I want Ebra biatzecha, give me passage through your land. And Dasan Sichen as Yisrael var beglulai. Sichen did not give this permission to pass through his land. In other words, what Moshe Rabbeinu asked Sichen was, you are the lock to Eretz Yisrael. The gates are closed. You are in control of the locks. Please open up the locks. Let me pass through your land. So what it amounts to is that Sichen says, I'm not opening up the locks for you. Now what do you do if you have to go through and you don't have the key and they don't open the locks? You break open the locks. And that's exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu did. So he went out and waged war with Sichain, and Vayakeo Yisrael lefi charev, and they were destroyed through the victory of the armies of Klal Yisrael. So Rashi says an interesting language which I never came across such a language before. When Yisrael sent messengers to Sichain that he should give them passage, Vayishlach Yisrael malachim, the Jews sent messengers. So Rashi says, Vayishlach Yisrael malachim. So Rashi says, but in another pasuk it says that Moshe sent the messengers. Va'eshlach malachim. In Devarim it says, I, Moshe, sent the messengers mimid bakadeimis. And it says, Vayishlach Moshe malachim. Moshe was the one who sent the messengers. And by Yiftach it says, Vayishlach Yisrael malachim, the Yisrael sent the messengers. So what's going on over here? So he says, these psukim explain one the other. So Rashi says, Zen nayo v'zeh pesach, one locks up and one opens up. Moshe is Yisrael and Yisrael is Moshe, because the Nasi of the Zayar, he is the Zayar. Ki ha-Nasi hu ha-Koyel, the leader of the generation, he is the generation. So Rashi uses a very interesting lashon. We're dealing with the locks of Eretz Yisrael. So when you send messengers to Sichain, you're sending messengers concerning opening up the locks. If you don't open the locks, Sichain, I'm going to break it open. But so the locks were broken open. 300 years later, along came a character, and he refused to believe what history states. He says the locks were never broken open. And this character was the king of Ammon, that the Haftarah of Parshas Chukas talked about. And he came to argue, this land of Transjordania belongs to me, to Ammon. Go away from here. So Yiftach, as the Haftarah tells us, argued with Ammon, first with Shalem, and he explains them the history, and it goes through at length the entire history that this land was conquered by Moshe Rabbeinu, and it doesn't belong to you, Ammon. But Ammon refuses. So Yiftach went and waged war against the king of Ammon. Isn't it rather interesting that the king who refuses to believe that the locks were broken open by Moshe Rabbeinu 300 years later, that king was vanquished, that king was destroyed by a certain shayfet whose name was Yiftach. Yiftach means to open up. He opened the locks. He reopened them after they were broke, after the king of Ammon wanted to close them again. Now, there's a little message over here. Let's do some research in the character of Yiftach. Who is this Yiftach? who opens up the locks for us. So the pasuk says in the very first pasuk of the Haftarah, "V'yiftach haGiladi, Yiftach from Gilad, haYagiba Chayil." He was a man of valor. V'hu ben Isha Zayna. He was the son of a woman, a prostitute. His father was Gilad. Vayayded Gilad as Yiftach. Gilad gave birth, he begat Yiftach. And Vataylet Aishas Gilad Leibanim, he had children from another wife, and they grew up. Vayegashu as Yiftach, and they drove away Yiftach. They chased him away. Vayomrulai, they told him, you're from a different mother. You won't have any nachla with us. Go away. Vayivrach Yiftach mitnayechav. Yivrach fled. Vayeshev be'eretz Toiv, and he went to the land of Toiv. And the Yerushalmi says that was chutz la'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael. They drove him away from Eretz Yisrael. And then Yiftach, thousands of years later, some people used this story to spark off their imagination and create a story of Robin Hood. So it says, "Vayislaktu Yiftach Anoshim Reikim." Around Yiftach gathered Anoshim Reikim, empty people, and they gathered around him, and he got an army. Vayetzu imay, and they flocked around him. And this is the people with whom he had the milchama against the king of Ammon. That drove away Yiftach. Tammuz is the chaydish of the Churban, of Vayegorshu, of driving away Klal Yisrael from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. So the Sedra Chukas tells us in the Haftarah that after they were opened up by Moshe Rabbeinu, after the gates of Eretz Yisrael were opened up and the locks broke by Moshe Rabbeinu, along came somebody who closed them up again. And he contests the fact that Eretz Yisrael belongs to Klal Yisrael. So who is the one that reinstates the facts and the truth that Eretz Yisrael belongs to Klal Yisrael? Yiftach, Loshen Osid, in the future sense, Yiftach, he will open. Tammuz is the keys. Tammuz is the Chaydish of destruction, of Geirush. We were driven away from Eretz Yisrael. And in Tammuz we learn that we are going to reopen the gates of Eretz Yisrael. We are carrying the keys in Tammuz. The ring of keys are clanging in our pockets. Tammuz is now a rejected Chaydish, like Yiftach was rejected. And there are many neshamas now which are neshamas from Tammuz. Neshamas which found themselves in a driven-off state, in Eretz Toiv, in exile, in Chutz La'aretz, away from the Kedusha. Why? Because they weren't born in such a good family. Like Yiftach, V'hu ben Isha Zayna. He was a son of a mother which didn't have the desired family status like the so-called FFBs, the people who are born in religious families. So Yiftach represents these people. But Yiftach was a tzaddik. And Dafka, a generation of Yiftachs, they're the ones who hold the keys to reopen up the gates of Yerushalayim. They're the neshamas of Tammuz, these neshamas. And these neshamas of Tammuz are the neshamas that will reopen up the gates of the Geula, of the redemption. And this will explain to us something. Tammuz is a rejected Chaydish. Tammuz is a dejected Chaydish. It's a Chaydish which lost its stature. It should have been first. Tammuz is Reuven. Reuven is the Pchaya. It should have been first. Because of the sin, he was relegated to be fourth, and to be the Chaydish which opens up the gates to Nebuchadnezzar and to Titus, to the destroyers of the Beis HaMikdash, instead of opening up the gates to the coming of Mashiach. This is what Tammuz is currently. However, Tammuz will be transformed, like the neshamas of Tammuz that will be transformed with him. They're going to assume their position on top. These yiftachs are going to be, those who are driven away, they're going to resume their position on top. They bear the keys to the Geula. So therefore, Yiftach has a very interesting request. You want me to go and fight for you, he tells the Jews? On one condition, if you want me to lead the armies and have a milchama against Ammon, I want to be your leader. I want to be on top. Yiftach wants to be on top. Yiftach was such a tzaddik. Where is his modesty? Where is his anivus? He must be on top. What's the difference who is on top? You do what you're supposed to be an Eved Hashem. Why do you have such ambitions to be great? You want to be on top. Yiftach knew what he was saying. Yiftach knew that he's on the Shem of Tammuz. Tammuz belongs on top. When Mashiach will come, Yiftach will be on top. Yiftach opens up the gates. He doesn't mean that Yiftach as Yiftach should be on top. He's just a symbol. He means to say there is a cloud that when we do certain things, we activate it. When all our mitzvahs are activators, they do certain things in heaven. Our mitzvahs are just like buttons that we push. They make certain things happen above. By Yiftach being appointed on top, it means that all the neshamas which identify themselves with Yiftach, all those rejected neshamas, all those neshamas which were driven away from Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Toiv, these neshamas, dafke, the Tammuz-dike neshamas, the neshamas which bear the character of Tammuz, they're going to be on top when Tammuz will come on top. When it will be Mikuyim, the Nevuah of Zechariah Hanavi, Tzayim HaRaviyi, the fast of the 4th month of Tammuz, Yehapich leBeis Yehuda l'Sasan u'Lesimcha.